It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchendu. Our very last show in the month of October. The end of the year is fast approaching, and that also means that 2018 is around the corner, which means elections are seriously heating up. We did talk about the road to 2019 on our show last Sunday, but in the last week, something else has taken over most of the headlines, and it's the drama surrounding the former pensions pensions commission boss, Abdul Rashid Maina, who, I don't know, the entire story is just pretty bizarre to a lot of people. He was fired for corruption and was supposed to face corruption charges, and then he suddenly reappeared in the civil service. And there's all of this, so many questions that a lot of Nigerians have, and a lot of them are still unanswered. But we're going to try and get a sort of perspective on it as well on our show today. I have here with me Fola Adelesi. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, starting off with that now. I mean, it's very confusing for a lot of people to see that something like this would happen. Like I said, this was a man who was pretty much fired and was supposed to face corruption charges with the federal government, and we suddenly hear that he became a director again in another ministry of internal affairs, I believe, and then suddenly nobody seems to know how he got in there. Ministers are denying, the president has no idea how this happened, and we're now hearing that maybe panels of inquiry might be set up. Should it be that difficult, first of all, to find out how this man got back in there?
Okay, the first thing I think we should be looking at is to set aside our political differences and see what actually went wrong. From what I understand, and haven't been following the case properly, what I have noticed is that the head of service said that they got a request to reinstate Maina, and they actually conferred with the Attorney General of the Federation, and he advised them to reinstate him on the conditions that he had appealed the judgments, or that he hasn't actually been convicted by any of the cases that were against him. And some of them were actually cleared. So if there is no case against him, and the EFCC that took him to court did not appeal the judgments, based on the judgments clearing him from those cases, then he should be reinstated. It was premised on that the head of service actually reinstated him. So what I think went wrong is the issue of communication. The major issue with this present administration is communication. They would have said to us, or they would have clearly said why he wasn't reinstated, how it happened. But if there was any issue, at least from what I heard, the EFCC should have appealed the judgments that gave him the leeway to come back into the system, instead of coming back now to say, oh, we're looking for him, he's wanted, this, that. But that's what should have happened long ago. But
why reinstate him in the first place is what I'm trying to find out. Whether his case is pending, the fact that his case is pending and he was already taken out of government by the federal government, regardless of whose presidency it was, should be enough reason to stay clear of that particular situation. Why is he so important? Why was it so important for him to come back into service when he has charges, whatever it is, in whatever capacity, is still pending?
Lawyers will tell you that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. So if he has not been proven guilty and he appeals, or he says, I want to come back.
But he's not been cleared either.
Well, he may not have been cleared, but there's nothing saying that he's guilty. And so long as he's not guilty of any charge yet, nothing stops him from coming back into the system. You now have to prove why he should not remain in the system. That's another thing entirely.
So my point now being, has the Attorney General of the Federation hasn't come out to say or claim that he particularly did this. The president has said that he had no idea how this happened. We've seen so many pictures floating on social media with Maina sort of dining in the presidency with members of the cabinet and members of the government. For a presidency that has this quote-unquote zero tolerance for corruption, and we've been told so many times that body language is one of the strongest points of this presidency. What does this say about that?
Okay, the first thing is, let me put it out there that the presidency has put out a disclaimer regarding that picture of Maina dining with members of the cabinet and saying, that's not Maina, it's somebody else. I saw that tweet from the spokesperson of the president, Malam Garba Shehu, saying that it wasn't Maina in that picture. However, one of the things that we don't do in this part of the world is to step down or step aside. Ideally, what you would have expected is that if there's a case against someone, the person should be suspended, or you even step down yourself. You don't even wait for the court, you don't wait for the president or any other thing to come after you. But we don't do that in this part of the world, and I think it's the honorable thing to do if it's messy. However, there's also another narrative that he's just been a victim of some cabals who are fighting back, because there's the story out there that this same Mena helped in exposing some scandal or some corruption scam within the pension scheme, and how he had helped to save about 320 million or thereabout. There are different figures flying around actually, but there's a story out there too that he actually exposed some of those things. So this is being made to look like victimization. We don't know which exactly it is. However, somebody is also saying that if anybody is trying to victimize you, one of the things you should be doing is to speak out. Let's hear your own side of the story. For example, in any organization, you have the HR, and one of the reasons you have the HR is so that you can go to the HR and say, this is exactly what is happening. I have an issue with my direct boss, but this is why this is happening. So people don't just think that I am the one who is the bad egg. They need to know what exactly is happening. We are not hearing from him. So it's a bit difficult to know exactly what is happening except for what we hear in the media.